Welcome to the University of Michigan Dentistry Podcast Series, promoting oral health care worldwide.
This carious lesion requires a Class 1 restoration. There is staining of the fissures and pits, and the explorer can penetrate and catch. The tooth being worked on is a second molar. However, it has been mounted in the first molar position in this instance in order to facilitate access. This leaves an open distal contact. The tooth is in contact with the opposing arch. As a guide for cavity preparation and restoration, mark the centric stops with articulating paper by tapping the teeth together. These blue marks show the supporting cusp on the bicuspids and molars. The centric stops are compromises on the inclined planes of the mesial buccal and also the distal lingual incline of the molar. The rubber dam has been applied to isolate the operating site. Note the floss on the rubber dam clamp as a safety precaution. This particular preparation will be started with a number 2 round burr. The burr is aligned in 2 directions. First, perpendicular to a plane across the tips of the buccal to lingual cusp, and second, a plane across the mesial to distal marginal ridges. Remove the burr very slightly from contact while maintaining the established alignment, and start the burr rotating. This removal before activation of the burr tends to prevent breakage of the flutes of the burr. Initial penetration is through enamel and approximately 1/2 millimeter into dentin, with extension into each of the carious fissures and enamel faults carried out at that depth. The air-water spray is used as a coolant. A sweeping motion of the burr is an effective method of round burr use. This is a radiograph of the tooth being prepared. The superimposed number 2 round burr shows the relationship of enamel thickness to the diameter of that burr and is an effective method of measuring to help guide the depth of penetration. This histological ground section shows dentinal tubules, enamel, dentino-enamel junction, and the number 2 round burr at the dentino-enamel junction. This is the depth mentioned earlier, approximately 1/2 millimeter into dentin. In this particular tooth, the cavity is approximately 1.5 times the depth of the diameter of the head. This depth was established by placing the burr head against the radiograph of the tooth, as was shown, and using the burr as a measuring device. After completion of initial outline form, switch to a straight fissure burr, a number 56 in this case. Maintain the depth previously established when using the round burr. Align the burr and keep this alignment during tooth tissue removal. Note the height of the cutting flutes you can see above the surface of the preparation, and use this height as a guide for maintenance of pulpal floor depth. Widen the isthmus and lean the burr slightly into the buccal groove. Lean the burr into the distal marginal ridge area to establish a full taper or divergence. This also prevents undercutting the enamel rods and maintains a maximum bulk of dentin under the remaining ridge. At the mesial, the burr is tipped in a similar manner with the hand position adjusted for that area. This histological section shows the relationship of the fissure burr to the direction of enamel rods in the marginal ridge area. This outline form, both internal and external, results in the use of the straight fissure burr. Notice that the width of the isthmus in the mesial section is nearly ideal. There is a wider section than ideal into the buccal groove area, and also the distal isthmus, because a carious lesion in the floor has undermined the enamel. In the lingual groove and central pit area, there is a small whitish area of enamel still present beneath the arrow. This is not ideal and the cavity needs to be deepened slightly. Using the same Fisher burr at ultra speeds, plane the floor lightly to remove the remaining enamel. Refinement and retention are done using a slow-speed handpiece and a straight Fisher burr. Use a two-handed approach with the fingers of the left hand steadying the head of the handpiece. While refining the preparation, pulpal floors, walls, and margins, the burr is tipped slightly at the distal marginal ridge area in order to prevent undermining the enamel rods. Lean the burr slightly toward the buccal wall and more exaggerated into the buccal groove, again because of the pattern of the enamel rods. The slow-speed handpiece should be run fairly rapidly with a light touch during the smoothing procedure, while proceeding completely around the preparation. Slow rotation may result in irregularity of the wall outline. This is the outline form after refinement. Again, note the walls are smooth. The isthmus is nearly ideal on the mesial, but wide on the distal. Now that the external and internal outline forms have been established, caries removal is carried out. Caries remain in the distal and buccal areas. The spoon excavator is used to remove gross soft caries. Notice the peeling effect when doing this procedure on soft carious dentin. After the gross caries have been removed with a spoon excavator and the remaining tooth structure beneath feels fairly firm, check the soundness of the dentin with an explorer. Take care during this procedure not to exert heavy force towards the pulp. A large round burr is now used in a slow-speed handpiece. In this particular case, a number 4 round steel burr has been chosen to remove the remaining caries. It is operated at a fairly slow speed using a brushing action, with air used intermittently to blow away the debris. Remove all the peripheral caries, progressing towards the deeper center portion of the carious lesion. Cleanse the cavity with a small amount of water on a cotton pellet and dry it gently with cotton or air. Check this again with the explorer to make sure all caries have been removed and only firm dentin remains. After all caries are removed, retention form is placed. In this case, a straight Fisher burr is being used. Retention is placed by tipping slightly under the cuspal areas. Do not place retention under the groove extensions or into the marginal ridge areas, because this would result in weakening of the tooth. Retention should not be excessive and cause undermining of the enamel. Cleanse the preparation with water on a cotton pellet and again dry carefully. Place the double-ended Wesco cement instrument into the preparation to get a general idea of the amount of cement that will be needed. Since B&T is being used, cavity varnish is not required at this time. Place the cement into the cavity. In this case, it is placed in 2 increments, the buccal and distal areas in which caries required removal of dentin beyond the ideal depth of cavity preparation. Coat the instrument with cement powder and adapt the cement into the pulpal floor area that has been extended in the caries removal operation. Clean the cement from the margins and from the retentive areas with a spoon excavator. Be sure to remove the cement from all the areas of retention. This is the outline of the preparation and the outline of the base in the floor of the preparation. Again, note that the base covers only that area removed beyond the ideal depth. Apply cavity varnish to the entire cavity preparation, including the walls, floor, and margins. Use a small wisp of cotton on an endodontic file to do this. Pre-test the amalgam pluggers in the preparation to make sure they will fit into all areas of the preparation. In this case, the condenser cannot reach the bottom of the floor of the mesial extension. A smaller condenser or a Wesco plugger can be used. Pre-try the carvers at this time also. A number 26 spoon is being used for this preparation. Ride the spoon on the marginal area and not into the preparation itself. Try the 5C carver, the discoid end being used here. In use with the cleoid end of the 5C, note that the cleoid end should not extend further than halfway across the preparation, because that would remove amalgam from the opposite margin. Place an increment of amalgam into the central area and begin condensation. Condense with a firm, rocking motion. As the deeper portion is filled, progress to larger condensers when possible. The preparation should be overfilled. Place the condenser at right angles to the tooth surface to begin formation of the central groove and overpack the margins. Do not push the amalgam back into the preparation, but allow it to spill over the edges of the tooth. Mercury-rich amalgam is removed during condensation by this overfilling. Start carving with a number 26 spoon to remove the excess. Keep the spoon riding on the margins and do not allow it to carve into the depths of the cavity. Carefully carve around all the margins, progressing around the preparation in an orderly manner. Then use a 5C discoid end to define the margins. Air may be used to remove the excess amalgam. The cleoid end of the 5C carver is used to define the central groove, the lingual groove, and also the buccal and supplemental grooves. The distal and central pits are also established with this instrument. Again, note the cleoid end should not extend further than halfway across the preparation, because that would remove amalgam from the opposite margin. The rubber dam is removed. Check the occlusion by tapping the teeth together lightly. Examine the restoration for burnished areas resulting from contact. Areas that show any burnishing in this are slightly relieved with a 5C carver. Check the occlusion again by tapping the teeth together gently with blue carbon paper. This particular restoration has a very dark blue contact area which needs to be relieved slightly, since all of the contact areas should have a uniform density of color from the carbon. After making occlusal adjustments to the contacts, check the occlusion again. Press the teeth more firmly together and check working and balancing excursions. In this case, there's a very long slide that needs to be removed. After the adjustments have been made, check the occlusion again, always being sure to include working and balancing excursions. The entire restoration is burnished using a conical burnisher or round ball burnisher after the occlusion has been established. Accentuate the grooves and do not burnish heavily in the centric stop areas. A thorough burnishing will greatly minimize the time needed to complete the finishing and polishing at a subsequent appointment. Finishing and polishing should take place a minimum of 24 hours after placement of the restoration. After a minimum of 24 hours, examine the restoration for areas of attrition, which would indicate high occlusion. Check the margins with a Cowhorn Explorer with the tine held perpendicular to the margins. Check the occlusion with carbon paper, including working and balancing excursions. Note the centric stop area is still maintained. A definite pattern should be followed during the finishing procedures, working from coarser to finer abrasives during the procedure. With a slow-speed handpiece, start finishing by using a small round finishing burr to accentuate the grooves. Operate the burr at a fairly rapid speed using a very light brushing action. Use this small round finishing burr only in the deep grooves and not across the broad surfaces of the restoration. Next, use a small pear-shaped finishing burr to emphasize the grooves and to start widening them. Move around the restoration in a definite pattern. When using a new sharp finishing burr, it may be operated in reverse to prevent excessive amalgam removal. Lastly, a large pear-shaped finishing burr is used with a light brushing action over the rough surfaces of the restoration. Take care not to destroy the centric stop areas by over-finishing with the burrs. Examine the restoration with an explorer over all the margins. A catch from tooth to filling means excess filling material. Catch from filling to tooth means just short or over-finished margins. Areas that have a slight catch at the base of deep grooves are adjusted with a thin, flame-shaped burr. The burr is used in a back-and-forth motion, level with the restoration. Begin the polishing procedure with a slurry of XXX silex on a black rubber cup. Follow the contours of the restoration. Place the cup into the grooves and around the cuss tips so as not to destroy the anatomy built into the restoration. After polishing the entire restoration with silex, rinse the tooth thoroughly. Place a clean, fresh rubber cup in the handpiece. A slurry of tin oxide is used for the final polish. If a fresh rubber cup is not used or the tooth not rinsed thoroughly, the remaining particles of silex will scratch the final polish produced by the tin oxide. Follow the anatomy again in the final polish. When the polishing with tin oxide is complete, rinse the tooth thoroughly. Make a final check on the margins with an explorer. And also make a final check of the occlusion with articulating paper. This concludes the Class 1 amalgam. and would provide a patient many years of service.
You've been listening to a presentation from the University of Michigan School of Dentistry, which is dedicated to supporting open learning and open educational resources. This recording is licensed under the Creative Commons. It may be reused and redistributed for nonprofit use. Please attribute materials to the University of Michigan School of Dentistry and redistribute under this same license. For more information on how this and other University of Michigan School of Dentistry recordings may be used, visit www.dent.umich.edu/license.